Special edition of PFTPM on the decision of the Indianapolis Colts to go with Daniel Jones over Anthony Richardson as the starting quarterback, not just for week one, but for the entire season, according to head coach Shane Steichen. I know this could have waited until Wednesday morning on PFT Live, and I know that Chris Sims and I will talk about it then, but this is the kind of thing that requires a little bit of an immediate reaction because it's unconventional. When a team uses the 4th overall pick in the draft on a quarterback just 2 years ago, to sit him down for the full season in favor of a guy who had flamed out in his prior stop. Now, Daniel Jones did do well enough to get to the playoffs, win a playoff game at Minnesota, earn a second contract. But once it was decided they were going to move on when they had the first opportunity to do so, and they benched him for business reasons last year because he had injury guarantees for 2025, that's when it became clear that he would no longer be a member of the Giants. Spent some time with Minnesota's practice squad, was on the active roster for the postseason. The Vikings wanted to keep him as a backup, but he saw an opportunity to go to Indy and win the job. And he did. And he did. And I really do respect the Colts for being willing to admit that they made a mistake with Anthony Richardson. They can say whatever they want. We haven't given up on him. He's still the future, whatever. They're admitting they made a mistake. When the guy that you used the 4th overall pick in the draft on in 2023 is not your week one starter for 2025 for reasons other than injury, you're admitting you made a mistake. And for the Colts, this is just another spin of the door. Since Andrew Luck retired in 2019, they had Jacoby Brissett as the starter that year. They had Phillip Rivers. They had Carson Wentz. They had Matt Ryan. And they've had Anthony Richardson the past 2 years, and now it's Daniel Jones. Look, will this help Anthony Richardson be more prepared if Jones gets injured and Richardson has to play? As Shane Steichen told Richardson, you're one snap away. It's going to be on Richardson to show that he's ready to go every single week. And that's the biggest problem with being a number 2 quarterback. You have to have the same work ethic that you'd have if you were the starter. You need to understand the game plan. You need to be ready to walk in and play at any given moment. And Jones has had injuries. So, we focus on Anthony Richardson's injury history, and he's had more than a few in 2 NFL seasons. Jones has been banged up. So it could be Richardson at some point. That's how Bryce Young got back on the field. He was the 1st overall pick in 2023, benched during the 24 season for Andy Dalton. Dalton gets injured, in comes Young, and he's a different guy. So, look, the Colts have decisions to make after this year. They'll likely not pick up the 5th-year option unless Richardson plays and plays at a high level. And we don't know how Richardson's going to react to this. He may request a trade. It's an interesting question. Would there be a team out there that would give the Colts value right now for Anthony Richardson with 2 years left on his rookie contract and the opportunity to extend via the 5th-year option? I don't know. All the starting seats are taken. But is there somebody that could maybe groom him to compete next year or at some point this year? That's all TBD. For now, though, the Colts, in really the first significant decision made by new owner Carly Ursay-Gordon, who is the one that's in charge of the team. I know the 3 sisters are kind of running it together. She's the one that's running the show. And she's allowing her football people to make this decision because there's a certain preservation element to it for Shane Steichen and GM Chris Ballard. They need to get to the playoffs this year, or who knows what's going to happen after this season. And they see in Daniel Jones a guy that gives them the consistency and the stability necessary to compete for one of the 7 playoff berths in the AFC, with the caveat that Richardson may have to play at some point if Jones gets injured. But as Steichen tells it, it's a full season decision. It's not a week one thing, because usually when there's a quarterback competition, the guy that wins the week one job also wins the privilege of being the first guy benched. This is Jones until he's injured, as the Colts are telling it. We'll see if it makes a difference for the Colts, who have been good, but not good enough to get to the playoffs in recent years. If they get there, this Jones thing looks like a hell of a decision and a great investment of only $14 million in base pay if they get a playoff berth out of it. That remains to be seen, but we now know week one and beyond. It starts with a visit from the Dolphins, but beyond that, as long as he's healthy, it's going to be Daniel Jones. And a lot of questions remain about the future and the present for Anthony Richardson. We'll have more on this at PFT and tomorrow morning on an all-new edition of PFT Live. Thanks for joining us. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.